What's up, Upper Lovers? Today I'm standing in front of the piercing urge in Prahran, and I'll leave it up to you to figure out why I'm standing here.
Not bad, eh? Last time we learned that plants have developed adaptations against fire. Some directly, some post-fire. Today, we're gonna talk animals. So when it comes down to it, there's no actual evidence that animals have developed adaptations against fire. In general, all animal tissue is damaged by high temperature. The highest body temperature at which animal life is deemed possible is 50 degrees Celsius. Well, a wildfire burns on average at 800 degrees Celsius, so... But animals can rely on one ability that plants cannot. They're mobile. Yeah? So they can move to safety from a fire. So instead of adaptations, we're going to focus on animal behavior. In principle, there are two distinct behaviors in animals when they face a fire. The first is what you're probably imagining they do: run away. Now, interestingly, studies have found a surprising lack of panic in animals in contrast to a widely held belief that fires cause flight and panic. Instead, animals are generally pretty successful at finding the fire gaps to reach safety. The other behavior is to hide. So, some animals choose to seek refuge by burrowing themselves, hiding in trees, or finding patches that don't burn so well, like rocks or wet plants. Survival will then be dependent on how insulating the material is, meaning how well it can absorb heat, so that the animal isn't exposed to all of it. So although animals don't have any direct adaptations against fire, they can still do things to survive one. That doesn't mean that fires aren't responsible for killing animals. After all, animals usually die when they get burned. But it's important to know that most animals that do get killed in a fire usually die from smoke inhalation, instead of being burned alive. And it's also worth noting that it's usually a minority of the total animal population that dies in a fire. Alright, so that's how animals respond to a fire in a nutshell. But how do animal populations change after a wildfire? That's what we're going to cover next episode, where we'll bring everything together and consider all the aspects that we learned so far. We'll be looking at the importance of fire characteristics, how plants and animals respond to them, and how they, in turn, influence future fires. And that is what fire ecology is all about.
What's up, Upper Lovers? Today we're in Parkville, a suburb to the north of the CBD. Now, Parkville is known for hosting the Royal Park, which you saw in episode 1 of Julz Down Under, as well as the Melbourne Zoo. But to students, Parkville is primarily known for hosting the main campus of the University of Melbourne, Parkville campus.
The University of Melbourne was established in 1853, making it Australia's second oldest university behind the University of Sydney in 1850.
So if you Google the University of Melbourne, the first picture that will pop up is of the old campus, right there. And this historical building overlooks the South Lawn. Now, a fun fact about this lawn: underneath we can find a car park, and those of you who have seen the movie Mad Max might be familiar with that, as they once shot a scene of that movie in that very car park below.
So, a pretty cool fact about the South Lawn is that the roots of these trees grow into the pillars of the car park, and for that reason, the car park can never be destroyed.
For those times that you gotta study hard for exams, Parkville campus hosts several libraries, like this one. And if you need to study extra hard, you can actually sleep over at the library.
The official short name of the University of Melbourne is Unimelb. You'll find it in their website and email addresses for students and staff, but people usually say Melbourne Uni for short in informal language.
Of course I want to pay some extra attention to that building, because that is the Botany building, which you probably would have guessed by the way it looks.
You might be thinking that that's where my school, the School of Ecosystem and Forest Sciences, is based, but it's actually this building, the Baldwin Spencer building.
So if you're very much into sports like me, Melbourne Uni has an amazing sports precinct, built for the 1956 Olympics and afterwards granted to the university.
Not just for athletics, there's a hockey field, football oval, indoor swimming, a gym, anything you need, right on campus.
Parkville campus is huge, so where you'll be studying will depend on what you're going to study. But from this square, we can already see some potential candidates. For example, this is the Maths and Stats building. We have an old geology building right over here. Within the back, a chemistry building. a building for design, and medical school.
And if you want to study medicine, you do very well to study at Melbourne Uni. So Melbourne Uni ranks one of the best in the world in medicine, commerce, and law.
So if you're planning to study at Parkville and you want to live on campus, well, you can! So the University of Melbourne offers several places for accommodation near Parkville campus. So here in Parkville, there's 3 right next to each other. So we have Uni Lodge over here, there's the Lisa Bel Air House right in the background, and we have the International House over there.
The university also offers residential colleges for accommodation, multiple even. And one suburb over, which I'll talk about in just a sec, we have the Lofts at Melbourne Connect, Little Hall, and Uni Lodge Lincoln House.
Directly to the east of Parkville we can find the suburb Carlton. Now due to its proximity to Parkville campus, as well as other campuses, there's a lot of students that live in this suburb. But Carlton is known for much more than just student stuff. For example, we have the Carlton Gardens. In terms of size and design, Carlton Gardens is very similar to Fitzroy Gardens in East Melbourne. But there's one major difference. There are 2 major landmarks of Melbourne here in Carlton Gardens, right across each other. On this side we have Melbourne Museum, a natural and cultural history museum, and on the opposite side we can find the Royal Exhibition Building, which was used to host expos in the 1880s to showcase the achievements of the colony of Victoria. Right now, it's also used to host examinations for Parkville. Finally guys, this is arguably what Carlton is most famous for. The street that I'm standing on now is called Lygon Street, which is famous for hosting Melbourne's Little Italy. There is a huge density of Italian restaurants here, so when you come to Carlton, eat your hearts out at Lygon Street.
On the 23rd of October, I went to Jawbone Flora and Fauna Reserve with my friend Zoe. Jawbone can be found in Williamstown, which is a western suburb of Melbourne. Well, since we live out east, we had a decent bike ride to do. We passed the Melbourne Central Business District to reach the west suburbs, then made our way down the coast, under the M1 to reach Williamstown. It's actually a really cute little town that's definitely not shy to boast about its naval history. We continued around the loop, stopped a few times for birds, until we reached Jawbone. Jawbone has both terrestrial and marine reserves. Marine means it's underwater, and terrestrial means it's on land. Part of the terrestrial reserve is the Arboretum. So the word arbor basically means tree in Latin, right? So anything with arbor refers to a tree. Like the species I'm studying, Persoonia arborea, the tree geebung. So an arboretum is a reserve for trees.
So Jawbone is both a marine sanctuary as well as a flora and fauna reserve. You can see on the landscapes over here different types of vegetation. This happens to be a salt marsh, which also reminds me of the salt marshes back home. Didn't always look this way though. Before the 1980s these were actually hunting ranges where they used to have contests shooting deer. But right now the area is a protected flora and fauna reserve. So I've made it quite close to the marine sanctuary already. So there are 4 types of coastal ecosystems on the world. Right now I'm standing in a salt marsh, which is one of them. Out there you can see some bit darker green bushes. So those are mangrove trees, and a mangrove forest would also be classified as one of the coastal areas. Over here you can also see some mangroves. Now the third one is called a kelp forest. That one we cannot find here, but the fourth one we can. However, you will not be able to see it because that one is called a seagrass meadow, and as the name implies, you can find it in the sea, underwater, where unfortunately I can't take you.
Small correction. There's actually a fifth one. And the fifth one can also not be found at Jawbone. But I might just be able to take you there once I travel around Australia a bit. Because the fifth coastal ecosystem is the coral reef. Later that day, we made our way to Altona Coastal Park, further down west, only stopping to look at an island that's inhabited by a colony of royal spoonbills, but later got stopped dead in our tracks when we reached a watchover. This has to do with the tide, but also the recent record rainfall. When we realized it wasn't worth going around, we decided we had to go through. Zoe was much more tactful about doing this. I just barged on through with complete disregard for human life like a complete idiot.
So after that reckless little stunt, I got literally soaked on my bottom half, but luckily I brought a drying rack in the form of my own bike. And also, luckily I have Zoe, who was friendly enough to lend her shoes so that I'd at least not have to walk on these stones with my bare feet.
Altona Coastal Park is similar to Jawbone. Coastal salt marshes, terrestrial wood and grasslands, but we saw a lot less of this park because everything was flooded. We decided to call it a day and make our way to the train station, but we're lucky to find this black-shouldered kite on the way there.
What's good, up abovers? It's 4 p.m. Bus has arrived, so I'm going to Creswick. So the University of Melbourne has several campuses, and the Faculty of Science, that I'm a part of, is based at 3 of them. So we have Parkville and Burnley in Melbourne, which I talked about earlier, and today I'm in Creswick, which is about 130 kilometers to the northwest of Melbourne in the nearby city of Ballarat. Now Creswick is all about forest science, so with respect to my own project I would fit in much more over here actually. And the reason that I'm here today is because there is a graduate researcher conference right here at Creswick campus. We're here at the accommodation. Let me show you around.
So, it's 11:30 now. I'm in my private room here in Creswick and I'm about to get ready for bed because tomorrow the real conference starts and I will have to do my presentation. So wish me luck and good night, up abovers. The next day was presentation day, where I also got to present myself. There was a poster session, some chilling, and afterwards a dinner at the American Creswick where I ate a real Aussie meal, a chicken parma. Good to know, over here in Victoria it's called a parma, but when you get to New South Wales where Sydney is, you have to call it a parmi. So, first day of the conference is almost over. It was a very good day. I learned a lot about what the other people of the School of Ecosystem and Forest Sciences are up to, and I also got to present my own research as well. It was received very well from what I've heard, and I even managed to make some advertisement for my science communication channel, Julz Down Under. So, right now I'm getting ready to pack because tomorrow is the second day of the conference and also the last. So we have to leave the accommodation tomorrow morning. Gonna have some talks, do a lot of other conference stuff, and then head on back with the bus towards Burnley. So, good night, up abovers. Next day there were interesting lectures as well as a fun drawing workshop. Here's a fun exercise you can do as well. The rules are simple. Draw the person who's sitting next to you, but you may not take your pencil off the paper and you may not look at the paper. Instead, you must look at the person you are drawing the whole time. The results will amuse you. Here's my attempt. And after that, we learned how to make a botanical drawing. How'd you reckon I did? Well, after that, the conference was basically over. We had to leave Creswick and head on back to Melbourne. I've been training on the rings for a while, getting pretty strong, but I still felt like I lacked sort of goal. I need a type of skill to progress towards, otherwise I tend to feel like I'm not training for something at all. So there's one skill on the rings that I've never been able to do, and I guess I saw some opportunity to train that. And that skill is the ring muscle up. The important thing about the ring muscle up is that you need to use a false grip. So instead of a pronated grip like here, you basically exaggerate it with an over grip. It's certainly not a natural grip, so that'll have to be trained as well. So I start off my trainings by doing assisted ring muscle ups, minimally helping myself up with my feet, then move on to strength exercises to build general strength and specific strength in the false grip. This includes ring dips, false grip pull-ups, ring push-ups, and false grip rows. Thanks so much for watching again. Your Australian word for the day is arvo. What are you talking about? Similar to Barbie, it's shortening a longer word, and arvo is short for afternoon. So you might ask your mate, what are you up to this arvo? And this O suffix definitely isn't limited to this. There are other examples such as servo for a service station or a gas station. You have bottle-o for a liquor store, and even if you don't know what to refer to, you can just call it a thing-o. Don't forget to follow me on my socials to see photos of my adventures. Visit julzdownunder.com to read frequent blog posts, and if you like the music I used in this video, visit my SoundCloud at Julz Liquor Pulse. Thanks again. See ya!